Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Halifax 57 Rescue Show. And as you know, Halifax 57 Rescue is dedicating to saving all the Halifaxes we can around the world. We're searching everywhere. We're rebuilding Halifaxes. We're saving the history. Yes, there are many great Lancasters out there. There are very few Halifaxes, and that's the reason we've been here for over 30 years, is to meet that need. And we save the history, we save the aircraft, we rebuild the engines. We're working in both Ontario and Alberta at the Bomber Command Museum of Canada in Nanton, and we're doing all of this for the veterans. To further give you information, let us show you the feature for this program, a beautiful interview with Hank Jackson, RCAF rear gunner on a Halifax. And we spoke to Hank Jackson and asked him the who, what, when, and where, and why of his combat career. 32 combat trips, including 3 to Berlin. So I hope you'll enjoy this interview with Hank Jackson. And just remember to support us, like us, and follow us, because we've got more adventures coming down the pipe just for you.
Yeah, there was the first one, you didn't know what to expect, and it was it's hard to explain when you see there's so much going on, and this flak, and there didn't see many fighters going in, and Robbie the navigator made a point of keeping us in the right spot, steered away from a lot of hot spots, and they told you there was going to be intruders, our own aircraft in the stream, so we had to watch for those. And our main job, myself and Graham Tyndall, the mid-upper gunner, was to make sure nobody sneaked up on us. So we didn't see where we're going into the stuff, but I'd see it where we'd been. And so if I'd have seen some of that stuff we're going into, it would have scared me. But we didn't have the feeling, we weren't really scared, because we thought, well, it's not going to be us. They're losing a lot of people, but it's not going to be us. We're all right. And we had that feeling, and I don't know what it was. That they were losing a lot of crews at 428. Then early, I don't know what it was, but well, when we were on there. Right. When we were in first there, I only saw one crew that ever finished. And going in to these, going in the bomb run, we had to watch for the fighters wouldn't go in over the target. You were all over the target. It was flak and searchlights. That was a problem there, and it was heavy. You'd think it was impossible to get through those black clouds in front of you, and the noise would rattle off the plane like hail, and you'd think the thing was full of holes, and sometimes there was no holes. But the fighters would try to get you going in and coming out. That's what you had to watch. But over the target, they didn't go in because they'd be shot down the same as you. Over the target, a lot of times it was late daylight, depending on the weather. So you'd see aircraft going all on around you, and I just kind of didn't concentrate on that. I just concentrated on trying to see if there's anything out there. So
right, and you would be keeping.
Well, the speeds were around 200. Weren't even that fast. The fighters, of course, a lot faster than we were. So if you were able to see one coming in, it was all talked over before the pilot knew what was going on. We'd just tell him if there's something coming, we'll say we're coming in the starboard side or port side, and we'd see something coming in. A lot of times you'd see something you didn't know what you'd say. Appears to be some unknown aircraft coming in the left side, prepare to corkscrew port, and that meant for him to throw everything down to the left side. You drop straight down, and then at the bottom he pulled up into kind of a roll and come back up again. The idea was that this fighter would overshoot you, and that was a hope, and by the time he got circled, he'd circle around again, we were gone or in the cloud or somewhere else. That was the idea of it, just for him to overshoot. And it was the same, the starboard, the same. And it was just a maneuver that we'd practice and training. And it was a lot of work for the pilot because he wasn't a big guy and he'd be puffing. Yeah. Big aircraft to pull back up again.
That's right, yeah. Violent maneuver to shape the fighters.
Yeah.
And if you had to guesstimate how many times you had to do a corkscrew, what would you say, 5 or 6 times?
We never had that many. No, I always had 1 or 2, but never in training. We'd had quite a few, but not on ops. There wasn't that many. Maybe one or 2. There wasn't some nights we had nothing.
Sure.
So other nights you were going a lot. We didn't take a chance. If we see something we didn't know what it was, away we'd go. Right. Corkscrew left or right, port or starboard. We didn't wait.
To Berlin, which they say
well, the thought of it
running down the valley of death.
When we went to briefing and saw the red lines up to Berlin, you know, oh boy, this is something. But as we said, we never thought about it wasn't going to be us. We didn't have to worry. But going in there, I'm sitting in the back. I didn't see what we're going into. I'd seen where we'd been, and that was enough. There was a lot of planes going down you could see, and you didn't know sometimes whether they were actually a plane or what. But these had all kinds of anti-aircraft besides the big black spots. There was things like onion balls coming at you, just keep coming and following you along. You'd think if they ever caught up to you, that'd be it. But they just seemed to follow you. And all kinds of, it was just like a big fireworks program. And then all the, down below, just all flames and a hell of a mess. So, but as I said, I saw where we'd been. I didn't see it going in. It might have been a different thing. But we always had that feeling we're all right.
Yes, and so I'm looking at... Welcome back, folks, and to the Halifax 57 Rescue Show. And as we proceed into our 31st year in existence, we wanted to continue on with the long 2-year adventure to recover Halifax NA 337 from the deep lake in Norway, Lake Mjosa. And we had to gather all the information we could on the Halifax, its history, its manufacture, its structure, in order to do the best we could for recovering Halifaxes. And we actually went to England, to the United Kingdom, and we spoke to Halifax experts about the attributes and the strength of the Halifax. So let's show you that now, and you'll be able to see that the Halifax was no ordinary aircraft.
In Canada, Carl Casgard, a Canadian Airlines pilot, had spent years searching the world in an effort to locate a Halifax bomber. His objective was to honor our veterans and to remind future generations of Canada's fine war effort. Over 70% of Canada's bomber missions were flown on Handley Page Halifax aircraft, but not one was safe for Canada or for our heritage. In Toronto, we visited Jeff Jeffrey, a World War II Halifax bomber pilot. Awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross as a member of RCAF 432 Squadron, Jeff was contacted by Carl. Knowing Jeff's passion for locating a Halifax, they formed a unique team. Was this dream possible? Could they actually find a Halifax bomber? In 1994, Carl read about the legend of the Lake Mjosa Halifax. After traveling to Norway several times, he finally met with two Norwegian historians, Tor Marceau and Rolf Lieberg. They talked about the Halifax and of building a Canadian memorial to the bomber crews. Convinced of Carl's sincerity, Marceau and Lieberg produced an electrifying document, an unmistakable sonar image of Halifax NA 337. As teenagers in 1945, their early wartime memories compel them to explore Lake Mjosa in search of a legendary Halifax aircraft. Jeff Jeffrey remembers the night Carl called from Norway.
I guess in the spring of 1994, Carl phoned me one day and said, I found a Halifax. And he told us a story about having researched the records, found out that there had been an aircraft sunk in Lake Mjosa after a crash landing, having been shot down by German ack. And he came to Norway and persuaded the gentleman who knew where the Halifax was, who had seen it crash land, or who had heard about it as youngsters, and who were very, very serious about the dedication of a memorial of this aircraft. And after meeting Carl and realizing how sincere he was, they decided that they would show him where it was and that we could go about on the salvage. Subsequently, through contacts Carl had with Major Glennie of the Royal Norwegian Military Museum and contacts with other military people and so on, we obtained official permission from the Department of Defense of Norway to salvage this aircraft, which, by the way, was flown by an RAF squadron on a supply drop to the Norwegian underground.
With the discovery of the aircraft, preparations for the salvage operation began in earnest. The sonar chart gave them enough information to make some important decisions, but the estimated weight and lifting conditions of the mainframe were still unanswered questions. The big problem was the plane was 750 feet down. Deep sea diving companies were approached for their expertise in salvage operations. It wasn't long before Jeff and Carl realized the complexities of lifting an aircraft of this size.
We made a trip to Norway to talk with a company called Decon, which is run by two gentlemen, Dag Ammerud and Gunnar Gunnarsson. We felt that they had developed the philosophy and idea of raising this aircraft correctly. When I say philosophy, it wasn't just money that made them want to do it. It was the idea of presenting a monument to the younger generations in the future, to tell the story of what all young men did for the cause of freedom during World War II.
Tor Marceau decided to show Carl just how much the Norwegian people appreciated the efforts of the Allies. In a wooded area just a few hundred feet from the lake stood a monument erected to honor the airmen who had died in their effort to help the Norwegian people.
All the names of the guys?
Yeah, all the guys, yes. And the one missing.
Yep. Flight Lieutenant Turnbull, DFC pilot. Flight Lieutenant Mitchell, navigator. Flight Sergeant Bassett, flight engineer. Flight Sergeant Tuckett, air gunner. Flight Sergeant Naylor, wireless operator. And Flight Sergeant Thomas Waitman, lone survivor. That's a fine memorial. And you got the Hercules engines on it.
Yes, on it, yes.
Yes, accurate.
Accurate.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a wonderful memorial.
After seeing the sonar charts and the compassionate dedication of the people of Hamar, Carl was on the phone to Canada.
In the spring of 1994, Carl phoned me one day and said, I found a Halifax. I believe that there's been so many good things happen to bring this all together, that the chance opportunity of Carl meeting these gentlemen who knew where the aircraft was, the meeting with the people who are doing the salvaging, the help we've received from the government, there's some 2,000 veterans in Canada who have donated money and become members of the Halifax Aircraft Association, and all the dramatic letters that we have received from all these people who have not only talked about how great that wonderful aircraft was, but how important it is that it be restored and maintained in the memory of their comrades who have passed away. And I'm part of this, and I feel, I don't know why I am, but I'm sure glad. It's hard to realize that I was a 20-year-old kid, and here I am, an old man, and I'm playing a part in history, and I think that's probably what it's all about.
So, folks, there you have another portion of this grand adventure to get a Halifax out of 700 feet of water. And just remember, all that we've done for you, everything that we are doing at Halifax 57 Rescue, we need your support. We're a registered charity. We can give you tax receipts. We can find you Halifaxes. We can rebuild Halifaxes, but we sure need your support and funding to continue our adventure. And bottom line is, we do it for our veterans. Thanks, and see you soon.